Hello guys, and welcome to the fifth part of my tutorial on how to create an inventory system for the Blender game engine. Let's continue from where we had stopped. In the previous part, what we did was to create a system to pick up the dropped items in the ground. So what we did was to make our mouse cursor appear when running the game, and then now we are able to hover our mouse cursor over an item and left click to add it to our inventory. So if I left click now, you see that the items are picked and are added in the inventory. The thing is that we haven't created a visual representation of our inventory, and for the moment our inventory is in a dictionary form, where this dictionary contains the slots as keys, and as values the name of the object that occupies the slot, and whether this object is equipped or not. And what we are going to do now is we are going to visualize the inventory, and in order to do this we are going to create a new scene, because the inventory will be in another scene, and we will display this scene as an overlay scene to our main scene. So let's rename this new scene to inventory, and let's start adding objects. First of all, what we need is a camera, and I'm going to move it along the z-axis and press 0 to go to camera view, and I'm going to add my inventory slots. Our inventory will have minimal the minimum number of items, and it will consist only it will consists of our slots, and for slots I'm going to use simple rectangles, which I'm going to rename them. Each one will have the name slot 1 to slot 8, and I'm going to change both the object name and the mesh name. And for the mesh name I'm going to name it empty, and if you remember, in our database, in our inventory database, empty is the keyword for an empty slot, and since my slots will be empty at the beginning of the game, I'm naming the mesh of the slot, I'm naming it empty. So let's move here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create copies of this object, but the copies of the slot object will share the same mesh. Usually we use the Shift D combination to create copies of our 3D models. The thing is that if you use the Shift D combination to create duplicates of your objects, the new object, the duplicate, gets this new name, slot1.001, but also the same happens with the name of the mesh. The mesh is renamed to empty.001, and this is an independent mesh. What I want now is to keep to have all the slots share the same mesh. So the Shift D combination doesn't do what I want. So I'm going to delete this slot here, and reselect the original one, and I'm going to use the combination Alt-D. Okay, by pressing Alt-D and moving along the x-axis, okay, you see that the name of the object has changed to slot1.001, but the name of the mesh hasn't changed. And this means that when I edit one object, the mesh of this object, it also affects the mesh of the second object. What I'm going to change is the name of the slots, slot 2, and I'm going to repeat the same process, Alt D, and move along the x-axis, and rename this to slot 3. Okay, notice that the mesh name doesn't change, and slot 4, and I'm going to select all these and Alt D and move along the y-axis and rename each slot 5, and then slot 6, slot 7, and finally slot 8. Okay, now I have my 8 slots, which correspond to these 8 slots that I have in my database. And what I want to do now is I want each time my inventory appears on the screen to show the items that are stored in each slot. And first thing I have to do is to make my inventory appear in my main scene. So I'm saving my Blender file and I will change to the original scene. Let's name it game. So what I want is to, while I'm running the game, to press a key, let's say the I key in our let's say that I want when I press the I key to make the inventory appear on my screen. So let's see how we can do this. First of all, I'm going to assign a new key in my global dictionary, and I'm going to name it inventory and set it to off. This means that my inventory will be off in the beginning of the game. And then let's go to our main script, which we have already said that it is executed once in every game cycle. And here is where I'm going to control the appearance of the inventory screen. So what I'm going to write is if logic keyboard dot events, and next I need the code for the key I want to press. And we said that we will use the I key to make inventory appear or disappear. Again, you may go to the tutorials for Blender 3D.com site and choose here BG Python 2.6 and keyboard menu, events, and here we have the list of key codes, and I want the alphabet keys. So here we can see that the I key is assigned to the number 105. So let's return to our script and add 105 here. This means that this if statement will check whether the I key has been pressed, and specifically this statement here, if logic keyboard events 105 equals to 1. This means that when I have pressed the I key, first check the state of my inventory, whether it is on or off. If GD inventory equals to off, then display my inventory. And we are going to do this by writing logic add scene inventory, and then we have to change the value of the GD inventory key to on to make the engine understand that our inventory is on. If GD inventory equals to off. Now what we want to do is to make our inventory disappear. First of all, I'm going to have to say to the engine to find the inventory scene from a list of scenes and make and delete this scene. And in order to do this, I'm going to create a function which I'm going to name getScene, and scene, I'm going to add the parameter scene name here. And what this function will do is it's going to, for scene in logic get scene list, if I remember correct, it's going to loop to scan the scene list, which contains all the active scenes of our game, and whenever it detects a scene which has the same name with our with the inventory scene, or the scene that we have specified here in the scene name. So if scene name equals the string of the SCE, and I have added string here, the str command, because this scene is not it's not a string, it's a scene object. Its type is scene object, so I'm going to have to make it to be this equalization to be valid. I'm going to convert it to a string, because my scene name will be a string too, and I want the SCE variable to be converted to a string, because you can't compare things that are not of the same type. And I repeat, this happens because this SCE variable is not a string. The getScene list contains the elements of the getScene list are not strings, but type of scene. It's a special type that Blender uses. So if the scene name equals to the string of the SCE variable, I'm going to assign a new variable which will be equal to the scene, not to the string of the scene itself. And next I'm going to write return ret. And what this function does is it does not only execute the code, but it returns a result. And let me rename this to result. Okay, result, return result, and this is going to return the scene which I have specified here. The difference is that here I'm going to specify a string, and here it's going to return me kx scene type object. So I'm going to put my function to use here, get scene inventory. One other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the key inventory of my global disk, my global dictionary, to off, and now I have spotted a mistake here. This is on, not off, and here I'm changing again to off, so the engine knows that inventory won't be visible anymore. Okay, I hope I have done everything correct. So let's check whether our inventory appears or not. If I press I, okay, you see that our inventory appears, and if I press I again, it does not disappear because probably I have made somewhere a mistake. Let's save our project and toggle the console. Scene inventory already exists, not added. And the thing is that I have changed the value of GD inventory to on. Let's see again, press PI, check my, okay, no problem, and if I press I again, it says that nothing. So for some reason it does not work. Yes, it does not work because I haven't specified that I want the scene to be deleted with the end object, I think, or end. Let's see, that's the case. I and I, yes. So this is the correct. Press I to make the inventory appear, and I again to make it disappear. Now what's left is to make the inventory. Okay, if we click the items and press I, we want these items to appear here in these slots, and that's what we're going to do now. First, let's save our project, and to do this we need to create, let me delete some files we don't need, because all they will do, they're going to confuse you. Okay, so far we have our databases. Okay, don't get confused because you see two copies of these files. This one is my CSV file and this one is my spreadsheet file. I have kept the original spreadsheet file just in case something doesn't work, or if I want to make some changes and I can't directly work with the CSV file. So don't get mixed. This one, and this one are my CSV files, my databases, the database of the dropped items, the database of the weapons, and the inventory database. And furthermore, I have my tutorial inf, which is my main blend file, and have a bg config file which contains my global dictionary. And finally, I have this file, the weapons file, which contains the 3D models of the weapons. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to create another Blender file, and for now, to keep it simple, I'm going to create a copy of the weapons file and rename it to, let's say, slot icons, and this file will contain my slot icons. So if I open this file, okay, remember it's the file, the weapons blend file renamed to slot icons. So if you remember, my objects are on the second layer, and these are the representations of the weapons, and I'm going to use the same representations for the icon, the slot icons. Okay, it's logical that you may want to use other graphics for the icons of your game, but this tutorial. The target of this tutorial is to explain how to create an inventory, not how to make the graphics for an inventory. So we're going to keep it simple and keep the same 3D models for the slot icons. The only thing is that I'm going to scale them a bit because they're going to be very large for the slots. So I'm going to scale them a bit, and this one here. Okay, go to first layer, leave all the objects in the second layer, make the first layer active, make sure that the first layer doesn't have any contents, it's totally empty, and save your file. I'm sorry. So we may exit this file here and return to our main Blender file. Now what we want to do, let's go to the inventory scene and select the main camera, and we are going to create another script, and this script will be launched whenever the inventory screen appears. So select always, don't check the true level pulse mode, and add a Python controller, connect these two, and create the Python script, which will be called inv init inventory initial, and this script will be launched whenever my inventory screen appears. And what we want to do with this script, first of all, I'm going to copy some code from my main script because it will share the same code. Okay, so we import the BG module, we import the logic submodule, we assign the global dictionary variable, and I'm doing this because else I would be obliged to write logic global dict all the time, and it's too large to write it all the time. So I'm assigning it to the GD variable, which is a much smaller word. Okay, then assign your controller, the owner of the controller, and get the current scene, and then we are going to write some code. And not yet, I'm also going to copy some code from my init script, and I'm going to copy the function, the libload function, which loads a library from another Blender file, and I'm going to use it here too. I'm going to need it. And remember, it takes two parameters, the blend file and the type. And for the inventory, I'm going to use another type, libload. The blend file is, how did we name it? We named it slot icons. So I'm going to write slot icons.blend. And the type will be mesh. I just want to load the meshes and not the scene, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these meshes, the empty meshes, with the meshes of my slot icons. So if we run this and check our console, okay, no, we have no errors, so I can go on. And then what I wanted is to fill my slots. Okay, I'm going to create another function for this, def fill slots. What this function will perform, it's going to run a loop for I in gd inv dot values. Okay, it's going to loop through the values of the inventory dictionary, and it's going to detect whether a slot is empty, and if a slot is empty, it's going to replace its mesh with the mesh of the slot icon. So I have to assign a new variable with the initial value of 1, and now if I and id obj is not equal to empty, okay, and let's check our database to remind you. Okay, if it is not sorry, if it is empty, not empty, I got mixed up. Okay, if it is empty, then okay, if it's slot, here is id object, the id of the object of the stored object. If it is empty, then we are going to replace the mesh of the slot with we're going to replace the mesh of the slot with the mesh that is stored in the dictionary, in the inventory dictionary. And how are we going to do this? We are going to add another variable here named objects, and it is going obj, it is going to contain all the objects of the scene, logic objects. So if obj, and which obj, slot plus the string of the counter dot replace mesh, this is going to replace the mesh with the mesh of the slot icon. Replace mesh id id object, and close the bracket. And I don't need an if here, don't know why I added it. And counter plus equals 1. So let's see again. I'm looping through the values of the GD inventory dictionary, and if the ID of the stored object is empty, or probably not empty, okay, I'm changing my mind again. If it is not empty, which means that a slot, that an item is already stored in this slot, then change the slot, and which slot, and I add the counter number, slot 1 in this case. So the first slot will replace its mesh with the ID obj from here. Okay, in our initial inventory, in our initial database for the inventory, all slots are empty, but when I pick up an object, this is replaced by the name of the object. So let me save and let's see this in action. And no, before I do this, or no, I think we are ready to see it. Press P and let's pick up this one and press I, and nothing happened. And let's see why it didn't happen. Okay, in line 9 I have a problem. Yes, here I have to add get current scene dot objects. Okay, and now press P, pick up this and this and this and press I, and nothing again. Let's check again. Has no attribute. Yes, because get current scene needs brackets too. And finally, tada, pick this, pick that, press I, and yes, you can see that the items are added to the inventory. And one thing is that, let me save first and press P, pick this up and this and press I, and okay, we see that the meshes, that the slot icons have been added, or to be more accurate, that the meshes, the empty meshes, have been replaced by the meshes of the slot icons. But if I close the inventory and reopen it, you see that the slot icons don't appear anymore. And what's the problem? If we check our console, we will see that it says that a blend file is already open, and the blend file which is already open is the slot icons blend. And this happens because when the inventory initiates the script, when the script inventory init is executed, it tries to load the library slot icons blend. Okay, in the first time it loads it normally, but if I make the inventory reappear, it tries to reload this file again, and the problem is that this file is already open. So what I have to do is to free this library whenever I close whenever the inventory is deactivated. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to put the code that controls the liberation of the library that contains the inventory slots items from here. What I want is to use the logic.libfree command here, and here you put the name of the file you want to liberate. And the problem is that this is somehow mixed. It's confusing, this name, and very complicated to put here. So I'm going to have to find another method to do this. And let's check my reference file. We can see that I have created a function that does this work, this job. And don't get mixed, this is not the same file, it's my reference file. I have written this code previously and checked it, and I use this file, I advise this file many times just to make certain I don't make mistakes. I haven't made any mistakes, and I'm going to copy this code here and go to our file and add this function, the freelib function. What this function does, it takes as an input the lib parameter, which will be a string, and then it executes this code here, this declaration here. And what does this do? It searches in the logic lib list. The logic lib list contains all the active libraries at the moment, and it checks for an element x, which is inside, which is contained in the lib list list, and it checks and add this result only if the x element contains the lib, and the lib is the string we want to and we have already specified. And if this happens, then then it takes this result, and notice that this is a list, the res variable is a list. And when this happens, we use the libfree command to liberate the first result of this list. Okay, again I repeat the logic behind this line. Search the logic lib list list, the list of the active libraries, element by element, and if the element you are checking contains the lib string, then add this to the res list, and then free the database, the library, from the first element of the res list. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write free lib inventory and press P and check if it works as expected. Let's get this to weapons, press I, they are added, press I to close, and I again, and no, it does not work. And let's check why. Okay, I get another warning in line 41 of the main module. List index out of range. And yes, the problem is that it's not called inventory, it is called how it's called, it is called slot icons dot blend. Slot icons dot blend. Okay, so this here slot icons dot blend is the lib parameter. So it is going to search in my library for an element that contains slot icons dot blend, and notice that this thing here, see users Pananag desktop blah 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 blah, contains slot icons blend. So it's going to detect it and add it to the res list. So press P, pick up, and then press I. Okay, they are added, press I again and I, they are added again, and pick up other objects too, and okay, see that the objects, the slot icons appear normally, and you can close the inventory and pick the rest of the items and press I again. Okay, now we have the problem that we had told in previous part. You see that the packs of arrows appear in different slots. So we are going to have to fix this in some part of this tutorial. But for now, we can see that our inventory works as expected. We can pick up items, and we can display them in our inventory, and our inventory is not interactive. We can't click on an item, but in the next parts we are going to make it interactive, and we will be able to equip our main character with these weapons. And one more thing is that we will be able to drop these items and empty the inventory, but this stuff we will work on this stuff in the next parts of the tutorial. So this is all for now, and thank you for listening and watching this tutorial, and until the next time, have fun and keep practicing.